Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Llandow for round 7 of the CLUB100 SP60 Championship. We are in South Wales, and right as I say that, the engines have been fired up, and we are going to be getting underway then for our practice session, as Dante Dillon leads the field out for our practice/qualifying. So for those people new to CLUB100 and not aware exactly of how the format works today, we have our lightweight practice session. That will be followed by the heavyweight practice session, both of which will be going from practice and straight into qualifying afterwards. We have 15 minutes of this practice qualifying session, and then after these 15 minutes are done for both the lightweights and then the heavyweights, we'll be having weights. The finishing order of race 1 will be deciding the starting order for race 2 of the day. As our drivers make their way out of the final corner to start their first set of hot laps. So the field making their way out of the back corner and on to the back straight. And we'll set the first hot lap of the session, a 53.0. Miles Reitman also on a 53.0, just a few hundredths shy, but it is Fraser Bunton who pips Dante at the top of the times with a 52.9. Ben Lambeth up to fourth with a 54.3. Important to remember as well that the first 5 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, it's either the first 5 minutes or the first 10 minutes, that is just a practice session. So the times from that practice session do not count. So the times from those first 5 to 10 minutes do not count towards the qualifying order. Miles Reitman has been able to put in a 52.0, which is the new fastest lap of the session. Something to note as well for 2023 at Llandow is we are not using that little bus stop chicane on the back straight. Now, that chicane is completely flat. Maybe not in the wet, but in the dry, it is definitely completely flat. And that should result in lap times dropping by about half a second to a second compared to last year. Dante Dillon has just set the new personal best of the session, a 51.9. Aha! We finally have the timings working on my screen, so I can pull those up side by side with the camera. So just to show everyone what I mean regarding that chicane, if you look over there, if we move our camera, that little bus stop chicane on the exit of the penultimate corner has been blocked off by some cones. So it is completely straight once you make your way out of that kind of little chicane at the exit, or that leads onto the back straight. Miles Reitman pumping in a 51.5. Greg Smith having a fantastic session so far, 51.7 and in second position currently. Andrew Graham actually in fourth, so very good lap from Andrew, 52.0. About a second separating your top 13 drivers. Just keeping an eye to see whether any of our drivers have potentially made their way into the pit lane for a kart swap, and none have, as far as I can tell, as Fraser Brunton comes over the line, as I believe Fraser has just found himself a little bit of clean airs, put in a 51.7, still Miles Reitman though at the top of this practice session. Up into second place goes Graziano Malivindi. Very good time from Graziano, 51.7. Just a couple of hundredths clear of Fraser Brunton as Dante Dillon jumps up into second place with a 51.6. Still, though, Miles Reitman at the top of the times, putting in yet another 51.5. Sam Lovelace up to P3 on the timing sheets. So we will be going green with our 5 minutes of qualifying in a couple of minutes' time. Again, a reminder that this is a 15-minute practice/qualifying session. Once we get 10 minutes into this session, qualifying then begins. So the top 10 all into the 51s currently, from Miles Reitman down to Javier Gorostidi Turner. Apologies if I get any names slightly wrong. A new personal best and a fastest lap of the session for Miles Reitman, 51.502, very close to eking his way into the 51.4s. Dante Dillon also with a 51.5, the only other driver to make it into the 51.5s, 51.535 for Dillon, as Miles Reitman puts in another 51.5, a 5.61 this time. Sam Lovelace jumps up to P2 with a 51.526. So, expecting pole to be probably a 51.4, and I say that because I think, considering it is still relatively early part of the morning, we have a lot of mist, a lot of fog around the circuit, I do think that track, or this track, will be heating up as the minutes roll on. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of our top three currently finding that extra tenth or so, 51.4 for the lightweights. Probably for the heavyweights, going to be looking at a 51.6. The lightweights run to a minimum weight, I believe, of 76 kilos. Actually, I know it's 76 kilos. Whereas the heavyweights is what I'm unsure about. I think they are running at about, I want to say 85 kilos, but I could very well be wrong on that number. Also, somewhat surprisingly, for this round of the SP60 Championship, none of the Titan boys are here, from what I can tell anyway. So no Jack O'Neill, Andy O'Neill, no Owen Genman, as we have a spinner through the chicane. I'm not entirely sure who that is. It's through the chicane of turns 1 and 2, and I think camera. And that's another thing to remember. If you have any spins and it gets caught on camera, ooh dear. So I just want to quickly double check the standings for the lightweight SP60 and indeed the heavyweight SP60. As qualifying has now begun, we are into the final 5 minutes of this session. The sun is starting to break through some of the mist and fog hanging around the circuit. And starting to get a little bit warmer in the commentary box as well. So we'll wait for our first couple of drivers to cross the line and the times to start flooding in then for qualifying. Well, currently in the championship, it is Jack O'Neill who is leading by a total of 8 points over Fraser Brunton. And that is from everyone's best 4 events. And with no Jack O'Neill or Andrew O'Neill, a fantastic opportunity for Fraser Brunton to find some extra points. Maybe even for the likes of Dante Dillon and Sam Lovelace, who are down in P4, P5. Andrew Graham just a further 7 points behind Sam Lovelace down in P6, followed by Ben Lambeth, Callum Martin and Hussein Rashid, with Mac White completing the top 10 in the championship. So Greg Smith is our first driver to jump into the 51.4s in qualifying. But let's not forget, it was Miles Reitman who was topping the times in practice, and now you can visibly see that the sun is starting to shine over the circuit here in Llandow. Don't know if it's as evident for you guys at home seeing through the camera, but here in the commentary box it is definitely a lot brighter. Greg Smith then topping the times ahead of Dante Dillon, Fraser Brunton, Sam Lovelace, Miles Reitman, Ben Lambeth completing the top 6. Then we have Josh Wood and Matthew Clark, followed by Jake Renshaw down in P9 with Andrew Golby completing the top 10. Andrew Graham improving up to P4, 51.624, just 100th clear of Sam Lovelace down in P5. Your top 3 separated by less than, for an absolute fact that from a mobile practice that will then lead into 5 minutes of qualifying. I think it is Zach Cuff who is head in through. So it's Daniel Taylor who has jumped to the top of the times with a 52.4. Remember, with the fastest time we saw in our lightweight qualifying session was a 51.4, which was Dave Cottrell and possibly Greg Smith. I can't remember if Greg Smith was a 51.4 or a low 51.5. And it does look, bandwidth has sorted itself out. And as I say that, let's bring up the timings as well. Daniel Taylor at the top of the times, 59 thousandths clear of Anwar Beryl Smith. As they head through the chicane of turns 1 and 2. And a track limit warning as well out for Anwar Beryl Smith, and I believe I heard parts of the driver's briefing. Track limits are for not running wide through the double right hand. I believe that is penalty if you go over that sausage curb. It's on the exit of Treeline Straight, or on the exit of the right-hander that leads onto Treeline Straight. fastest time of this session, Anwar Beryl Smith, a 52.5 as he crosses the line. He's starting to close on to a couple of drivers up ahead. Tim Penny, though, puts in a 52.182. And it is Ryan Sandel who jumps up to second with a 52.4. So Tim Penny, 52.1, leads the session. Mo Hassan has just put in a 52.3, jumping up to second, ahead of Beryl Smith and Cuff, who are currently sitting in third and fourth positions. Then it is Ryan Sandel and Daniel Taylor, with Vince Cogswell, Stuart Osborne, Clive Morfett and Sam White completing the top 10. Sam White just ahead of Steve Lindley and Matt Horgan in P11 and 12. But it is very, very close in this heavyweight session. You're talking about a second separating the top 20 from Luke Somerville down in 20th to 10th clear of Mo Hassan. Well, an improvement from Cogswell, 52.4. Ryan Sandel puts in a 52.3. Here comes Mo Hassan, though, as he approaches the line. Can he improve? It's only a 52.5. As Tim Williams goes up the inside of Sam White into turn 1, and Sam White goes very wide into turn 2. Matt Horgan has just been able to make his way through a train of karts, has Alex Pritchard not too far behind him, and the pair of them will be hoping to gain a lot of time, because at the moment Alex Pritchard down in P24, and we know a driver of his calibre in the top 5 or so in the championship as well, if I'm not mistaken, will be expecting to be much higher up the order. Alex Pritchard currently 4th in the championship, just 30 points behind Anwar Beryl Smith. And actually, in terms of total points position, just 2 points ahead of Kyle Walker. So again, welcome to anyone who might have just woken up. It is a Saturday. We have had our lightweight SP60 qualifying session already, and it was Dave Cottrell and Greg Smith locking out the front row of the grid. And now we are into our heavyweight session. Still 2 minutes time. Tim Penny and Mo Hassan are your current quickest drivers in this practice session. And Llandow is definitely throwing up some surprises so far in practice and qualifying, at least thus far. We'll see whether this trend continues. 52.0 for Vince Cogswell. Takes pole by, well, top of the times by nearly a tenth of a second over Tim Penny, as Ryan Sandel jumps up to third with a 52.2. Matt Horgan up to P5 with a 52.3. Improvement as well from Zach Cuff, now in P6 ahead of Anwar Beryl Smith. And now is a second separating your top 22 drivers. That is ridiculously close. Who is our top super heavyweight? Jamie Garside in P18, Stuart Kirk second in the super heavies, and then it is Dimitri Zeldin, who is third in that heavyweight class. Let's see if anyone can eke their way into the 51s. Our pole time was a 51.4 in the lightweight class, and we're currently running about 0.6 off that pace in the heavyweights, who run about 10 kilos heavier than the lightweights do. Vince Cogswell is making his way through the chicane and on to the back straight. And we'll see when he rounds the final corner what kind of lap time we expect for the number 38 driver, who is actually right behind the 48 as well, Zach Cuff jumps up to P6, Anwar Beryl-Smith up to P3. Vince Coxall can't improve, 52.1, which would also still be the fastest time of this session so far. And as I say that, the clock has ticked past 5 minutes, or ticked past 10 minutes, depending on how you look at it, and qualifying has now begun. As all of the lap times start to, well, not the lap times, the drivers start to cross the line. I think Steve Lindley might be one of our first drivers to set a qualifying time as the number 47 driver crosses the line. Mo Hassan has come across the line, but again, Stuart Kirk, our top two heavyweight drivers in 7th and 8th, as Anwar Beryl-Smith across into Vince Coxall up into P4, Ryan Sandel up into P2. But this trio of drivers of Cuff, Beryl-Smith and Coxall working together at the moment and finding a fair bit of time. It is Beryl-Smith at the front of this little train of carts, and then it is Zach Cuff. Zach Cuff chasing down Anwar Beryl-Smith, as I think that might have been a mistake for Vince Coxall, as he has dropped out of this little trio of carts to turn it into a duo of carts. Alex Brooks improves with a 52.338 up to P4 and just ahead of Anwar Beryl-Smith. Tim Penny, improvement then from Clive Morfett, a 52.4. Mo Hassan, who was sitting in second during practice, is down in P10 with a 52.4. And it is 0.2 of a second separating your top between the top 24. It is incredibly close in the heavyweight class currently. Alex Brooks just puts in a 52.380, tantalizingly close to improving on his personal best, but will remain in P5 for now. As we have just under 2 minutes remaining, Anwar Beryl-Smith improves 52.299. Also improving is Zach Cuff at 52.244. Wow! 9 thousandths of a second, 75 thousandths of a second between your top four drivers. And it is literally 12 thousandths of a second from Tim Penny in second down to Anwar Beryl-Smith in P4. And that can just be absolutely anything. Just feathering the throttle slightly better through a corner, getting onto the brakes a millisecond later. Matthew Horgan, though, jumps up to P2, a 52.258, and just 34 thousandths shy of Zach Cuff. Enough time left for 2 more flying laps. Anwar Beryl-Smith crosses the line at 52.314, but Zach Cuff improves again, 52.162. Vince Coxall up into second with a 52.193. So it is Cuff from Coxall at the moment on the front row of the grid, and Llandow is giving us some crazy results, some true dark horse stories. Alex Pritchard across the line, P8 with a 52.342, only 18 hundredths of a second down on Zach Cuff at the top of the times. So it is currently Cuff from Coxall, Horgan, Penny, Sandel, Beryl-Smith, Brooks, Pritchard, Morfett and White. That is your top 10, but here comes Zach Cuff coming across the line, and he has got Beryl-Smith just in front of him. Beryl-Smith in a little bit of dirty air, I want to say, but does improve with a 52.287, matches the time of Tim Penny. This checkered flag is out, so Vince Coxall does not improve, Tim Penny does not improve, neither does Ryan Sandel. Here comes Matt Horgan, though, rounding the final corner, crossing the line. Can Matt Horgan improve? No, he cannot. What about Alex Pritchard? Across the line with a 52.7, no improvement there. So we're looking at Zach Cuff and Anwar Beryl-Smith and Alex Brooks as our final potential improvements. But Anwar Beryl-Smith was in a little bit of traffic, dare I say. It was actually Heart Testers. I think that is Sam Daimelo. But I could be wrong. I always get Sam's. That is our qualifying done for the Club 100 SP60 heavyweight. Zach Cuff, the 52.1, 300s clear of Vince Cogswell. Then it is Matthew Horgan and Tim Penny, Anwar Beryl-Smith and Ryan Sandel on row 3. Alex Brooks and Alex Pritchards to make an all-Alex row 4. Clive Morfitt and Sam White complete the top 10. Then it's Steve Lindley, Mo Hassan, row 6. Tim Williams and Daniel Taylor. Matt Jones and Garrett O'Connor, Stuart Osborne and Philip Hoodless on row 9. Jamie Garside is your quickest super heavyweight driver ahead of Alex Brandon and Sam Pike. Stuart Kirk, the second of the super heavies. Then comes Joshua Morris and Pete Gillett is your third super heavy. Luke Somerville and Christopher Heath, Dimitri Zeldin, Mark Ford, James Fremont, Lee Bennett, Daniel White and Craig Matthews-Clark completing our 32 kart field. So with the drivers naturally aligning into their qualifying orders. But we've had some, well, I don't want to say shock results, but surprisingly pleasant results in our qualifying session so far today. I think this first race of the day in the lightweight SP60 is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm just going to quickly check what the gap was across the field in our lightweight qualifying session. 2.1 seconds across the entire field. 1 second, or 1.07 seconds, separating the top 20 drivers. That is phenomenal. Time set. So I'm seeing some of our endurance teams arriving as well on circuit. I think that's Andrew Ward and Steph Theodorou. The endurance that will be taking place from about 1 PM today. Quite a few drivers opting for their clear visors over the iridiums. Still not much sunshine out here in South Wales. So everyone make sure that their pedals are in the right spots. Always make sure you've got your transponders in. But we should be going racing in a couple of minutes. CLUB100 staff just fueling up the final couple of carts. And then we should, hopefully, be underway with our first race of the day. I think I know what Greg Smith's magic was. He was telling me earlier that one part of the spoiler on... Sorry, I was just chuckling because I saw Greg Smith just doing press-ups in front of his cart, as everyone has been told to get into their carts. We'll see whether those press-ups give Greg Smith a couple of extra tenths. But everyone is into their carts, and our pace cart has been started up as well, so our drivers will be or formation lap very shortly. Underway. As you can see, all of our carts making their way off the grid behind the pace cart. I am very excited for this, and I'm just hoping, and I hope all of you guys hope as well, that we don't get too many buffering issues on the stream, because this is going to be a fantastic one, and I hope you guys get to watch all of it without having to have that very frustrating sit there waiting for the stream to update. Front row of the grid, championship protagonist in the SP60s on the second row of the grid. Miles Reitman was very quick in practice, couldn't quite convert it in qualifying. What does he have in store for us in the race? Eyes to the lights then, as we get racing at Llandow for the first time today. And it is a good start for Cottrell, good start for Dylan, who's alongside Greg Smith, trying to go round the outside of the left-hander, but that has now brought Fraser Brunton into play. Has to slot in behind Dante Dillon. Miles Reitman right behind Fraser Brunton as they head on into that long left-hander and now into the double right-hander. But Dave Cottrell has already stretched a few cart lengths ahead of Greg Smith, who is still ahead of Dante Dillon. And then it is Fraser Brunton and ahead of Sam Lovelace, who has gained a position on the start. And it is this train of 6 carts making their way on to the back straight now. Cottrell then still leading. Greg Smith under pressure. Dante Dillon having a think about going up the inside into the final of it, but Smith has gone wide, and Dante Dillon is alongside on the straight leading into turn 1. Dillon through and up into second position, and now Dante Dillon can begin the charge towards Dave Cottrell at the front of this field. And now it is Fraser Brunton's turn to try to find a way through on Greg Smith. He's actually going up the inside through the double right-hander. They're side by side now on that little back straight that leads into the fast right kink and then into that little flick on to a tree line straight. Fraser Brunton has found a way through and is up a position. Miles Reitman now on the back of Smith, who started this race from second position, and we knew he was going to have a tough time with some very, very quick drivers behind him. Reitman sends it up the inside of Greg Smith into the final corner, and now the pair of them side by side. Sam Lovelace behind the pair of them, behind Reitman, now looks to the outside, searching for a way through. Sam Lovelace has to slot in behind, and right behind Sam Lovelace is Andrew Graham, searching for a way to get involved in this battle. There we can see Greg Smith, green suit, green helmet with Miles Reitman behind him. Sam Lovelace has sent one up the inside of Reitman, so Sam Lovelace gains a position, but Miles Reitman has got the switchback, and the pair of them are side by side heading into the right-hander, and Miles Reitman has regained the position, and all of this has allowed Greg Smith to pull away. Andrew Graham now through on Sam Lovelace as well, so Andrew Graham up into 6th position. Dante Dillon is frantically hunting down Dave Cottrell and is slowly reeling him in, and knows that if he can get past Cottrell very quickly, he can minimise the chance of Fraser Brunton from closing him down. I think now that Greg Smith has had a lap or so without Dante Dillon, and he is right onto the back of Dave Cottrell, about a cart length separating the leading two. Fraser Brunton a further second behind. Last time round for Greg Smith, a 52.7. This lap has been won without any pressure from Miles Reitman behind. As here is Cottrell with Dante Dillon just behind on the back straight. Heading into the final corner, Dante Dillon, way too far back to go for a move. Will have to just slot in behind this time round. As out of the final corner they come. Greg Smith coming out a little bit wider than Miles Reitman. And it has seemed to have compromised him slightly as across the line they go. 51.9 for Brunton, 52.0 for Brunton, 51.9 for Dillon, 52.1 for Cottrell. As here is Greg Smith taking defensive line into that double right-hander to prevent Miles Reitman from sending one up his inside. And as I look, Sam Lovelace and Ben Lambeth have both found a way through on Andrew Graham. So Andrew Graham has dropped from P6 down into P8. As they make their way through the back corner and on to the back straight. And this is Dante Dillon sending it up the inside of Dave Cottrell into the final corner. Cottrell, though, very calm on the switchback, retakes the lead. And Dante Dillon has a rather tentative look behind him as Miles Reitman is through Sam Lovelace up the inside of Greg Smith. Outside now for turn 2. You can so easily get squeezed. And the pair of them get squeezed, and that's Ben Lambeth off into the grass. The Ben Lambeth is going to lose a whole chunk of time. They were practically 3 abreast through the kink of turn 3, and that was always going to end in disaster. As now you can see Greg Smith with about 6 cars behind him, heading down the hill towards that bottom right-hander and on to tree line straight. It's a very good run then for Sam Lovelace, who's trying to get alongside Greg Smith. Almost a bit of contact between them, as that is now, I believe, who has found a way through on Greg Smith. Sam Lovelace searching for a way through as well. Lovelace looks to the outside. He's going to try to go around the outside of all 3 of them. Sam Lovelace on the outside of the final corner. He's made the move work as well. Fantastic racecraft from Sam Lovelace as David Cunningham was able to pip Greg Smith across the line and into turn 1. But Sam Lovelace has now found himself not quite into clean air because he has Andrew Graham directly in front of him. And as he tries to get a good exit out of the double right-hander, David Cunningham has sent one up his inside. Now Sam Lovelace has gone from hunter to hunted. While all of that's been happening, I have forgotten that we have had a battle up at the front. Dante Dillon with Fraser Brunton down in 3rd position. Miles Reitman trying to close in onto this trio of kart. And Fraser Brunton is almost within range of the leading 2. Dave Cottrell and Dante Dillon have not been able to pull away from Fraser Brunton. So, a lot of time around for all of the top 3. 52.0, 52.1 for Miles Reitman. And then we're looking at mid-52s for everyone else behind. All of that battling from about P5 downwards has really been costing the field a lot of time. Dante Dillon still behind Cottrell as they come onto the back. Dillon, and he almost parks it on the apex. Dave Cottrell wanted to go for the switchback, but Dante Dillon positioned his car beautifully. And I think he gave a little signal to say, look, let's not battle. Fraser's right behind us. As Sam Lovelace battling it out through turn 1 with David Cunningham, able to hold on to the position as the pair of them search for a way through on Andrew Graham. And Sam Lovelace has been able to make the move. So Sam Lovelace is now up into P5 ahead of Andrew Graham, actually ahead of David Cunningham, and then it's Andrew Graham. Speaking of that, Andrew Graham gets a good run to the double bus stop chicane, as I would like to call it. And here is Dante Dillon ahead of Dave Cottrell and Fraser Brunton crossing the line. 1, 2, 3. Separated by half a second are our leading trio. Fraser Brunton, new fast lap of the race, a 51.863. However, Sam Lovelace now into clean air. Let's see what kind of a pace he has available to him. As Andrew Graham coming under a lot of pressure from David Cunningham. David Cunningham going up the inside. You can see David Cunningham in the white helmet, Andrew Graham in the orange helmet as they head down the back of the circuit into this fast right hand. And again, Andrew Graham getting a really good exit, coming out onto tree line straight and able to get back ahead of David Cunningham heading into the bus stop chicane. Still though, Dylan leading from Cottrell and Fraser Brunton. And all of them lapping under a 52.0. David Cottrell, the quickest last time around with a 51.883. And you can see the gap now that Sam Lovelace has to Andrew Graham behind him. David Cunningham still searching for a way through on Andrew Graham as they head into this right-hander. And again, it is the exact same move from David Cunningham up the inside into that double right-hander, but fighting back again is Andrew Graham, who now has the inside for the right-hander and is back ahead on tree line straight. So it's just a rinse and repeat from both Cunningham and Graham. But it does seem this time round both Dylan and Cottrell have a gap. Brunton, not by much, maybe a cart length or so. 51.8 for the fast lap of the race, 8.08. Fraser Brunton in the 52s on that particular occasion, so must have made a little mistake somewhere, presumably pushing the limits further and further as he tries to find that little bit extra time in his hunt for the top 2 spots of the race. Sam Lovelace, the only other driver into the 51s, a 51.9. He's taken 3/10 out of Miles Reitman. However, the issue for him is he's currently 3 seconds behind Reitman. And how long left in this race? We have just under 20 minutes left. Greg Smith doing a fantastic job to hold on to P8, has Graziano Malivindi directly behind him. As there goes once again Cunningham up the inside of Graham, this time into the final corner, and it is Andrew Graham who gets the switchback. Up the inside he goes into turn 1 as Gallivandi has found a way through on Smith. Sorry, Malivandi, not Gallivandi. And Fraser Brunton once again dropping back from Cottrell and Dylan on this last lap. Ooh, little bit of a slide there from Cunningham as Andrew Graham holds on to the position. I think Cunningham was trying to look for a switchback through the long right-hander, but got a little bit off the grip, and as a result lost the rear end slightly, which compromised his ability to properly have a go at Andrew Graham this time round. Here though is Dylan and Cottrell, and Fraser Brunton is falling back from the leading 2. Another 52.1 for Fraser Brunton. The quicker he closes into Miles Reitman, the more confidence he's going to get, and presumably he's just going to get into that better mental state, find that little bit of extra time as well. Also, hello to chat. No, I will not, because I'm actually racing here at Club 100 tomorrow in the Sprint Championship, so I sadly won't be able to do my regular commentary duties. Here is Reitman though, out of the final corner, still being hounded down by Sam Lovelace. Sam Lovelace, a 51.876, another 4/10 out of Miles Reitman. The gap was over 3 seconds. It is now down to just 1.8 seconds as Fraser Brunton continues to just steadily fall back from these leading 2 drivers of Dante Dillon and Dave Cottrell. Andrew Graham holding on to the position ahead of David Cunningham. The pair of them have a little gap to Graziano Malivindi down in P8, and they, who might be watching this race back either later on today or maybe later on in the week. If I haven't caught your battles, I do apologise, but we have had some absolutely cracking battles towards the front end of the field, as once again a move by David Cunningham up the inside of Andrew Graham, and again it is Andrew Graham who gets the switchback and is now trying to go up the inside into turn 1. Contact between the 2 of them, and somehow Cunningham keeps it on the circuit, holds on to the position. He's been trying to get this move done for an absolute eternity, but finally David Cunningham, I think, as forcing Cunningham to go defensive into the double right-hander. Can't get the switchback, trying to have a look up the inside, and Cunningham is going to leave him space. So once again, Graham up the inside into the right-hander and back ahead of Cunningham onto tree line straight. And this has all allowed Malivindi now to close in to this duo of karts, battling it out ferociously for P6. As there goes Dylan and Cottrell. Fraser Brunton has well and truly been left behind Fraser Brunton, very quick in the first 10 minutes or so of this race, was able to close into the leading two, but has since that point really fallen back and is now about a second or so behind the leading two. Actually about 2 seconds. Sam Lovelace another 51.9 and has closed to within a second of Miles Reitman. And maybe at this point Sam Lovelace might even be thinking, you know what, I fancy a go at P3, because he can definitely see Fraser Brunton falling back from Cottrell and Dillon. And maybe, if he has enough time, can close in to Brunton for the race win, which is, not for the race win, for P3, which is almost a similar situation with what happened between the pair of them at the Sprint Championship round at Lid a few weeks ago, where Sam Lovelace, hunting down Fraser Brunton, got past Fraser Brunton, but Brunton got back past on the last lap of the race to take the win in the A final. Sam Lovelace now less than half a second behind Miles Reitman. Dave Cottrell, 51.761, new fastest lap of the race. We're into the 51.7s. Astounding pace from Dave Cottrell. 52.3 from dropping for Fraser Brunton. What about Sam Lovelace on the last lap? 51.891, nearly his personal best. 6/10 almost out of Miles Reitman. Absolutely flying along. Now, I believe Malivindi is ahead of Peter Sharp and Greg Smith. Has closed up to the back of David Cunningham, who is still searching for a way through on Andrew Graham. These two have been having an absolutely almighty back, but Cunningham's done enough. Cunningham has done enough to get the job done. He is finally ahead of Graham, but does Andrew Graham have any way to fight back as they head towards that long left-hander? And David Cunningham has already pulled out about a car length or so ahead of Andy Graham. And I think has finally... Hello, Mr. Anders. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, Dante Dillon is starting to pull from Dave Cottrell. A couple of car lengths between the pair of them, as Dave Cottrell puts in a 52.0. It's another 52.3 for Fraser Brunton. And while I was looking at the battle between Cunningham and Graham, Sam Lovelace has not only got past Miles Reitman, but has gapped him by nearly a second as well. On that lap, he took 3/10 out of Brunton. He is 4 seconds behind with 13 minutes to go. 13 minutes is the equivalent to about 16 or so laps here at Llandow. And that might, you know, be enough time. Lovelace has the pace to do it as well. Dillon is starting to pull away from Cottrell. Gap is now 7/10 of a second, 52.1 from Cottrell, as he's starting to fall out of the toe, maybe starting to lose a bit of pace. Sam Lovelace taking 3/10 out of Brunton on that last lap, 52.0 for Lovelace. David Cunningham in clean air, 51.747. A new fastest lap of the race from David Cunningham down in P6. Also, I do need to check something. I don't believe it is the finishing order from this race that determines the starting order for race 2. I think it is the fastest laps of this race that determine the starting order for race 2. So right now, it would be David Cunningham starting on pole, with Dave Cottrell in second. So another front row start for Cottrell. And then it would be Dillon Lovelace. 51.9 for Dillon and Cottrell. 52.4 for Fraser Brunton. Sam Lovelace 52.0, another 4/10 gained, and Sam Lovelace will be well aware that he is closing down Fraser Brunton at a vast rate of knots. David Cunningham taking half a second out of Miles Reitman on that last lap, but David Cunningham actually half a second slower than his previous lap at 52.2. Keeping my eyes out for Graziano Malivindi, because he has really been closing in to Andrew Graham. Last lap though for Malivindi, a 52.1. As Dante Dillon is closing in on to make, I believe, the first lapping move of this race. Murtaza Hassan just having a check over his shoulder to see what the gap to Dillon is. Dillon and Cottrell also out of the 51s for the first time in quite a long time. So I think as this race is progressing, and maybe the tyres to maybe get a little bit too hot. Maybe driver fatigue starting to kick in. Fraser Brunton, 52.3, 51.9 for Lovelace, and both Dillon and Cottrell back into the 51s as well. So the gap is now 2.5 seconds behind Brunton and Lovelace. And to be honest, I think if at the start of the day you told Sam Lovelace a few tenths a lap, he would have bitten your hand off for that. But as the case is right now, this is just a battle for P3. It has been an absolutely sterling drive from both Dante Dillon and Dave Cottrell. P10, just over a second behind Ben Lambeth. Greg Smith, who started this race on the front row of the grid alongside Dave Cottrell. And Ben Lambeth, who had that little off when he was battling actually with Sam Lovelace, way back up the field. .52.5 then for Fraser Brunton, 52.3 for Sam Lovelace, another 2 tenths going the way of Lovelace. We have nearly 8 minutes remaining in this race, which is about nearly 10 laps. Sam Lovelace just needs to keep this consistency going because he can definitely see that he is closing in onto the back of Fraser Brunton, as David Cunningham has gone up the inside of Miles Reitman into the final in 3rd and 4th position. As they are now lapping Paul Mason. .52.2 for Dillon, 52.4 for Cottrell. In onto Miles Reitman in the battle for P6. And then Graziano Malevindi, further couple of seconds behind with Peter Sharp, not too far back. Ben Lambeth has found a way through on Greg Smith. Now it's Adrian Mertens and Andrew Golby on the back of the former front row starter. Here comes Dillon then, as Dante Dillon has got a contact warning, so that's probably for the lapping move he did on Paul Mason. I'm hazarding a guess as to that. 52.4 for Brunton, 52.1 for Lovelace, another 3 tenths gained by Sam Lovelace. 1.4 seconds is the gap now, with 5 minutes remaining. We're going to have a cracking final couple of laps battle between Brunton and Lovelace. Brunton, who is currently sitting 2nd in the championship, and Lovelace, I believe, is down in 4th in the championship, if I'm not mistaken. If I can find it. Lovelace is currently 5th in the championship, pardon me. And Sam Lovelace is so much closer now to Fraser Brunton than he was 5 minutes ago. Might even be close enough that he's getting a distant tow. He was only 1.4 seconds behind last time round. 52.3 for Brunton, 52.1 for Lovelace. The gap down to 1.2 seconds now and is almost within a second. Miles Reitman has been overtaken by Andrew Graham. So Graham up into P6, Reitman down to P7. Here is Greg Smith heading into turn 1 with Adrian Mertens directly behind him, and then comes Andrew Golby, Mac White, Josh Wood, Matthew Clark, Aaron Stillwell, and Michael Reeder, with Matt Collier completing your top 20. Just want to have a check as well, very quickly. Where is Dave Cottrell in the championship standings? And how has he done in the previous rounds? So David Cunningham is having a sterling drive. He has never finished better than P13, and it's usually around that 20th kind of mark. Meanwhile, David Cottrell has only once finished inside the top 20, so this is absolutely a phenomenal drive from the pair of them. So, last time round, Dillon 52.1, Cottrell 52.2, Brunton 52.5, Lovelace 52.2, another 3 tenths gained by Sam Lovelace. The gap is under a second with 3 minutes remaining, 4 laps. I think there is just enough time for Lovelace to get onto the back of Brunton, but will there be enough time for him to make an overtake? This is the main battle to watch for now, the battle for P3. Dante Dillon 1.5 seconds clear of Dave Cottrell. There is Brunton. There is Lovelace. Brunton with a black suit, white helmet. Lovelace, blue suit, blue helmet. As they have just headed out of our camera shot. And there we can see them heading into that long right-hander. And then down the hill towards Treeline Straight. Who takes third? We know how well Brunton can fight positions. But Sam Lovelace right now is hands down the quicker driver out of the pair of them. Maybe even the quickest driver on circuit. Well, here comes Brunton and Lovelace appearing into your camera shot. Brunton 52.3, Lovelace 52.2, half a second, but Lovelace needs to find more time than that. He needs to get down into the 52 zeros once again. Otherwise, I don't know if he'll have the pace advantage to get by on Fraser Brunton. Greg Smith as well, just having a look down in that battle for P10. Ben Lambert now up into P10. Adrian Mertens up to P11. And Andrew Dillon and Dave Cottrell through the final corner. About a second between them. And then is Fraser Brunton and Lovelace through the final corner. And Lovelace is about a car length behind. He's closed in once again. Another 3/10 gained by Sam Lovelace. And this battle for third has now well and truly started. Brunton will be able to hear Lovelace behind him if he can't see him. As they head through the long right, into the long left. Lovelace taking the wider line, trying to get the better exit. And Brunton definitely had a little look over. I do apologise in advance for maybe some bad camera work. And Lovelace is looking for the exit on to the back straight. And it is a good exit for Sam Lovelace. Brunton is going defensive. Lovelace forced to go to the outside. Can he hang it around the outside of Brunton? He's going to try. Surely he can't. Fraser Brunton holds on over the line to start the final lap of the race. And currently it is Fraser Brunton who is holding on to third position as they head down towards the double left-hander. And where does Lovelace want to make the move? Is he into the final corner? Because we know that Brunton is going to go defensive. Fraser Brunton does have a good for Lovelace. And I think Fraser Brunton has done enough, but what a drive from Dante Dillon. He'll take the check. All right, everyone, we are back and we are ready to get racing then for our second race of the day, the heavyweight Sprint 1 race. And if our lightweight race is anything to go by, we should be in for some fantastic action out on the circuit today, as our karts make their way to start their formation lap. They'll be led through the cut-throughs. We should be racing next time around. Hopefully. Hopefully. So they are going to be doing another formation lap, and this gives me just time to remind myself of the grid order for this race, if I can find it. Where is my SP60 qualifying? Zach Cuff and Vince Cogswell are on the front row of the grid. Matthew Horgan, Tim Penny will be on row 2. And Anwar Beryl Smith and Ryan Sandel will be on row 3. Then it's Brooks and Pritchard, with Morfett and Sam White completing the top 10. So Zach Cuff, Vince Cogswell on the front row. Zach Cuff in the number 48, black suit, orange helmet. Vince Cogswell, black suit and white helmet. Then it is Matthew Horgan and Tim Penny. Tim Penny with the blue helmet, and Matthew Horgan with the grey and purple suit and the yellow and purple helmet on the second row of the grid. And here they come then through the final corner to get racing. And we are underway, and they're already 3 abreast. It's a really bad start for Vince Cogswell as Zach Cuff just storms his way to the front of the field. Tim Penny has gained 2 positions side by side now with Matthew Horgan on the exit of the kink of turn 3. Horgan, though, holds on to second place ahead of Penny. And it is Beryl Smith up into P4. So a horrid start for Vince Cogswell, who has dropped from second position all the way down to P6. And I do believe he kind of moved over to the middle of the circuit very early, and then everyone on the left side of the grid just flew past him. But Zach Cuff leads this one. Matthew Horgan directly behind him, with Penny Beryl Smith following through. And then it is Ryan Sandel. And Steve Lindley has had an absolute storm as well. He's right on the back of this train. Now Sandel was having a look up the inside of Steve Lindley, trying to go up the inside of Cogswell. Almost making the move work. Has to slotting behind as this 7-car train makes their way across the line to start lap number 2. Mo Hassan has made his way ahead of Sam White, now trying to close into this 7-car train at the front of the field. Zach Cuff, though, just trying to get his head down and trying to pull a comfortable lead at the front of the field, currently about a car length ahead of Matthew Horgan, who has Tim Penny directly behind him, heading onto tree line straight, as we have a spinner through the double left hand, and I saw back end stepping out on the grass, as Matt Horgan has really closed in to Zach Cuff, heading through the back end of the circuit. Penny trying to have a go up the inside of Horgan, or maybe just trying to play it defensive to Beryl Smith behind him. But Horgan is very close to the back of Cuff, heading through turn 1. And your top 3, 4, 5, just nose to tail, as now Lindley searching for a way through on Cogswell. And Lindley has indeed gone up the inside into the double left-hander, and that means he's got the inside now for the right-hander. So Steve Lindley gains a position. Cogswell, though, trying to fight this one back, going up the inside of Lindley into the right-hander, has to back out of it, put a wheel onto the grass, and the grass is probably still a little bit damp as well here at Llandow. As we've got battles happening further up the field, Tim Penny has dropped 2 positions. Matthew Horgan has found a way through on Zach Cuff. Zach Cuff now trying to fight back. Can't go up the inside into the final corner. And Tim Penny cannot go up the inside of Ryan Sandel. Ryan Sandel with the yellow helmet and the light blue and black suit. But Beryl Smith now up into third place. Can Matthew Horgan pull away with the lead of this race becomes a question. And is that Alex Pritchard? No, that is Mo Hassan, who has closed up to the back of Vince Cogswell. Alex Pritchard has just found a way through on Tim Williams. And now has Clive Morfitt and Sam White to get through before he can start to hunt down this train of carts for the lead. Beryl Smith is now ahead of Cuff as well. So it is Horgan from Beryl Smith and Cuff in third position. But can Matt Horgan pull away with this? Tim Penny has fought his way back past Ryan Sandel. So some fantastic battling at the front end of the field. And Steve Lindley closing in to your top five. So Steve Lindley fighting from, I believe it was P11, really well. As Sandel has gone up the inside of Tim Penny through the left-hander. That's compromised him and allows Steve Lindley to get involved in this little squabble for position. And now these four drivers are separated by very little. Tim Penny has been able to pull away from Sandel, who has Cogswell right behind him. And then it is Mo Hassan. Actually, Steve Lindley, then Mo Hassan. Lindley having a think about going up the inside of Cogswell into the final corner, decides against it, backs out of the move. So your top four, pulling away from the rest of the field. Horgan from Beryl Smith, then Cuff and Penny. I'm keeping my eyes on this battle right now between Steve Lindley and Vince Cogswell. Cogswell defensive into the right-hander. Lindley looking to get the run, heading into the bottom right-hander. And on to tree line straight. I think we can just call it tree line corner, to be honest. I've never been one to remember the names of corners at karting circuits, except for probably Wilton Mill. Now, Sam White and Alex Pritchard and the drivers behind them have closed in to this battle as Lindley is trying to go up the inside of Cogswell. Bit of contact. Cogswell slams the door shut in Lindley's face heading into turn one, and that has allowed Mo Hassan to get right onto the back of Steve Lindley as they head down into that double left-hander. Lindley looking for the inside. Cogswell carries a lot of speed, maybe goes a little bit wide on corner exit. Lindley still directly behind him. And you can see how far the train of carts up ahead has pulled Lindley now up the inside of Cogswell. And Mo Hassan is going to try to follow him through. Can he do it? Mo Hassan has done it. Wide goes Cogswell. And that might even allow Alex Pritchard to have a go. And Alex Pritchard has, I believe, found a way through, not on Cogswell though, but on Sam White. So now Mo Hassan right behind Steve Lindley. I know these two have had a couple of coming togethers this season. We'll see whether Mo Hassan works with Lindley or pushes him along. But look at the battle. Tim Penny overtaken by Ryan Sandel. So Ryan Sandel now up into P5. Beryl Smith has also found a way through Matt Horgan while we've been watching this battle for P6. So Lindley and Hassan now trying to close into the back of Ryan Sandel in this battle that leads all the way up into third position. And it just goes to show how important qualifying is. So a quick reminder of what's happening in the championship standings. Beryl Smith is leading the championship from Richard Allen. Then it's Tim Penny, Alex Pritchard, Tim Williams, Ryan Sandel. Matthew Horgan down in P8 currently. Steve Lindley down in P12. So as things are looking, a good result incoming for both Matt Horgan and Steve Lindley. Steve Lindley has been able to pull a kart length or so ahead of Mo Hassan. This is also looking to be a fantastic result for Zach Cuff, whose best result this season has been a P7. And right now, Zach Cuff sitting in third place. That's Matt Horgan, courtesy of a back marker, has closed right on into the back of Beryl Smith. And Zach Cuff is defending Ryan Sandel on the outside, heading into the final corner. This might give a fantastic opportunity for Tim Penny to gain a position free of charge. Sandel now on the inside of Cuff, heading into turn one. Contact! Cuff is around. He's facing the wrong direction. He's taking a cone with him as well. He's going to be able to get going, but he's going to rejoin right behind Sam White. Disaster for Zach Cuff. It was going so well. Oh, that's for the stewards to look at. Sandel was on his inside heading into turn one. He was maybe about halfway alongside. And, well, Zach Cuff thought that he could turn in. And Ryan Sandel said that he wasn't going to go anywhere. And the next thing you know, Zach Cuff was sideways on the grass and then facing the wrong direction. And just as I was saying that Zach Cuff was on for his best result of the season, and his best result by a margin as well, Tim Penny has been able to get past Ryan Sandel as a result. Alex Pritchard is right behind Mo Hassan. So Alex Pritchard has begun his charge up through the field in the number 7 cart. And Alex Pritchard is going to go up the inside of Mo Hassan. I thought we were about to see a replica of the incident between Cuff and Sandel, but thankfully for the pair of them, they both end up on the circuit. As really nice send then by Alex Pritchard into turn 4. Gets the job done on Mo Hassan and makes his way up into P6. Alex Pritchard currently running in 4th place in the championship. 8 points behind Tim Penny and 20 points behind Richard Allen. And with Richard Allen missing out on this race, Alex Pritchard will be jumping ahead of Dickie Allen. Question is, can he get ahead of Tim Penny as well? There is Beryl Smith and Horgan. Beryl Smith, who will be extending his lead in the SP60 Championship. And Alex Pritchard now hunting down Steve Lindley. Let's have a look then at our fast laps of this race. Fast lap is Ryan Sandel, a 52.6. Remember, our fast lap in the lightweights was a 51.7. So nearly a second a lap difference then, which is courtesy of the weight difference between the two categories. The lightweights running at 76 kilograms, and I believe the heavyweights is somewhere between 85 and 90. Matt Taylor is staying within touching distance of Anwar Beryl Smith, 6/10 behind at the moment. Another 52.7 for Beryl Smith, 52.8 for Matt Horgan. Tim Penny, 52.631, almost a new fast lap of the race. And then it is Lindley, Pritchard and Hassan in 5th, 6th and 7th. And now that Mo Hassan has Alex Pritchard in front of him, has been able to find a little bit of time. And Alex Pritchard is dragging Mo Hassan along with him as he closes in onto the back of Steve Lindley last time round. Able to take 3/10 now of Steve Lindley in 5th position. Another 52.6 for both Penny and Sandel. They've gained 4/10 to Matthew Horgan and are now 1.8 seconds behind. I have a feeling that we are seeing a similar situation to what we saw in the lightweights, where it was Fraser Brunton who was being reeled in by Sam Lovelace. For a second, I thought that was Tim Penny going slowly, but it is just Nicky Richardson. So testing one of the CLUB100 road taxes. There goes Beryl Smith and Horgan across the line, both in the 52.8. It's a 52.5 for Tim Penny, and he is really, really closing in onto the back of Matthew Horgan. And 1.5 seconds behind Horgan. Now, 17 minutes remaining. There is plenty of time left for Tim Penny to not only get second, but maybe get the race win as well, because Penny and Sandel are lapping very, very quickly, and they're consistently taking a few tenths a lap out of both Horgan and Beryl Smith. Alex Pritchard is now a couple of tenths behind Steve Lindley as well. And you'll see them coming through the top of your shot, heading into the chicane now. Steve Lindley with Pritchard right behind him, and then comes Mo Hassan. All of them lapping in the low 53s. 53.1s for Lindley and Hassan, 53.0 for Pritchard. So Beryl Smith and Matt Horgan, 52.8, 53.1, 52.7 and 52.6 for Penny and Sandel, who have set the fastest laps of the race and currently would be starting on the front row of the grid for race number 2 of the day. Now, Ryan Sandel is right behind Tim Penny. If I was in Ryan Sandel's shoes, this is the point where you push Tim Penny along, because the pair of them are the quickest drivers out on circuit, and they, in my opinion, should not be battling for third. They should be keeping their eyes set on Anwar Beryl Smith leading this race. And if they can just do a little bit of bump drafting on the straight and maybe find another half a tenth or a tenth a lap, that could do wonders for them in this late charge for the top step of the podium. Horgan, 52.8, 52.6 for Penny and Sandel once again. And the gap is now less than a second. Having a bit of a slow lap behind Steve Lindy. Ooh, that is a bad accident. We just caught that on camera. And that is a car upside down, which is at the very least a yellow flag, and it might even be a red flag. And I was just looking at the timings, and then the next thing I saw was a car upside down. I hope the driver is okay. They look to be okay. They've got to the barriers, but after an incident like that, that would have been nasty. Drivers are being told to slow down. Yellow flag out, which will be out for a couple of minutes, is then, it is a full course yellow, stationary yellow flags being held around the circuit, which is probably going to mean that Tim Penny, Ryan Sandel will be onto the back of Matthew Horgan, who in turn will be onto the back of Beryl Smith. And that car has been turned back around. There will be presumably some damage to it. The steering column is completely bent. I'm just wondering how on earth that happened. Were there two carts going side by side across the start-finish line? Because that is a really bizarre place to have an incident, let alone flip a cart. Main thing, though, is that the driver doesn't appear to be too badly hurt. Never nice to see a cart flip in any way. I think that is Craig Matthews Clark, possibly. So, red flag out then. And I think this race will probably resume in about 10 minutes or so. The driver has had his helmet taken off, so he's alright, he's walking. So, the current order then, Anwar Beryl Smith ahead of Matt Horgan, Tim Penny, Ryan Sandel, Alex Pritchard are your top five. So Alex Pritchard was able to find a way through on Mo Hassan and Steve Lindy. Mo Hassan also finding a way through on Lindley as well. And then it is Zach Cuff, Sam White and Clive Morfett completing the top 10. Stuart Osborne and Tim Williams in 11th and 12th. Daniel Taylor, Philip Hoodless, Sam Pike complete your top 15. And then we have, I believe it's Garrett O'Connor, who is in 16th ahead of Matt Jones and Vince Cogswell. Vince Cogswell, who started right towards the front of the field on the front row, if I'm not mistaken. Luke Somerville, Christopher Heath is currently your top super heavyweight ahead of Mark Ford. And there wasn't actually much time between them. So we've got a bit of a battle going on in the super heavies. Then it's Lee Bennett and Dimitri Zeldin ahead of Stuart Kirk and Alex Brooks in 25th. Joshua Morris, James Fremont, Alex Brandom in 28th ahead of Daniel White. Jamie Garside, Pete Gillett, and Craig Matthews Clark completes the field. So I think we had a little bit of radiator fluid leaking out of the cart, which is why there's now a bit of sand on the circuit just to soak that up. Or maybe it was fuel that came out of the fuel tank. One of the two. But the cart is off the circuit, and we're probably going to be getting drivers back into their carts shortly, I would imagine. For those of you who have just tuned in, this is the second race of the day of the SP60 heavyweight. Or SP60 heavyweights, yes. Race 1 was very good. And race 1 of the heavies has also been very exciting until we had a red flag, which has brought a halt to proceedings, at least temporarily. So once we get this car pushed around the circuit and back to pit lane, we can get the race back underway. That cart is not going under its own power, and you can see it's being pushed by, well, for those people who used to be around a long time ago in a day far, far away, we used to run with TKMs, and those TKMs couldn't start a race by themselves. They couldn't get going. They had to be push started. So we used to call the pace carts the pusher carts, and they used to have this little metal flap at the front that you could use to pick up the rear end, push it along, and then drop it down to get the carts kick-started. Nowadays, they don't have that, so it is just quite literally being pushed along by the pace cart now, no longer a pusher cart. A little blast back to the past. But once that cart gets back into pit lane, I think our Club 100 officials will be putting everyone back into their carts, and we will be getting underway for the final 10 or so minutes of this race. I don't think the time has continued ticking. I think they stopped the time. And our carts are going to be gridded up on the start-finish line? Or is this lap cars being allowed to rejoin the back of the field? I think it might be. I think it is lap carts being allowed to rejoin the back of the field. So all of our other drivers getting their helmets on, getting back into their carts, and then we should be racing in a couple of minutes' time. So pretty much all of our drivers are back into their carts. And then once these three carts make their way around the field and back onto the back of the train of carts, we will be going again. Four carts getting to the back of the field. I think it's going to be a single file start to this race. So it's not going to be 2 by 2 as we would do for a traditional race start. Just single file, a bit like an F1 restart under a safety car. So the race officials just making sure everyone is in the right order before we get this race going again. So we're in for a straight dogfight again. It's no longer qualifying order. It is Anwar Beryl Smith ahead of Matt Horgan. And Anwar Beryl Smith having a quick few words with Matt Horgan, which might be something along the lines of, let's not battle, let's pull away so that Tim Penny can't get past us. And so that Alex Pritchard, who has, in fairness to Alex, been carving his way through the field, can't gain any extra time on them. Now, one thing that we know here in the commentary box, and any spectators might know, but not necessarily Beryl Smith or Horgan will know, is Tim Penny and Ryan Sandel are absolutely blisteringly quick. They were setting 52 sixes, 52 sevens consistently, while Beryl Smith and Horgan were doing 52 eights, 52 nines. They were closing in. Despite having been about 2-3 seconds behind, they were closing in, and we were expecting to have a fight for the race win regardless. Now we're having a straight-up race start with them starting a rolling start directly behind them. The question is, though, the tyres have cooled down. Tim Penny and Ryan Sandel have lost their rhythm a little bit. That might be a big factor. And these first few laps are going to be so important for Beryl Smith and Horgan to try to gain a gap. And maybe if Beryl Smith just backs up the field, that could allow Alex Pritchard to get past, because I don't think Alex Pritchard is as fast as Sandel and Penny right now. That being said, Alex Pritchard was in a little bit of dirty air, making his way through the field, so there might be potentially a little bit more time to be found for Alex. So, JV's just shouted to all the drivers. Shout is a strong term, needs to so everyone can hear. They're going to do one lap around the circuit, and then they will go green. So they're not going to go around the final corner and then start. They're going to do a whole lap to give time for the engines and all of that to warm up, a chance maybe for some drivers to get some heat into their tyres. And then we are racing. And all of a sudden, drivers have been told to turn their engines off. And now we've got drivers coming out of their cars. So, I'm not entirely sure what is happening, but something must have arisen, or something must have been spotted by JV and the CLUB100 team to just add a little extra delay for them to double check that everything is all set. Because the worst thing that could happen is if we get this race restarted, and then there are some issues noticed with somebody being in the wrong position, etc., etc., etc. Well, I guess the lightweights get an extra long break. A couple of drivers have taken their helmets off again. I think I saw Tim Williams walking across the circuit as well. I don't know if he went back into pit lane, but he walked over to the start-finish line, or the other side of the track. I haven't seen him go back over. Now I see him going back over. The sun is definitely shining here at Llandow. The mist from earlier on today is well and truly a thing of the past. I've actually heard rumours about there being rain for tomorrow. I don't know if I want rain for the sprints. You can let me know in the chat. Do you prefer rain for your karting races? Or do you hate rain? If you don't have a wetsuit and you prefer rain, you are a monster. I'll say that now. If you do have a wetsuit, then I can accept rain enjoyment. Had a race at the British 24 Hours. It was absolutely chucking it down for that. We all got phenomenally soaked. I had my wetsuit on, but my feet got still absolutely soaked. Water still somehow managed to make it to my crotch while driving, and yeah, so sitting in a little bit of squelch. Arms got wet as well. And when I came out of the car, because I did qualifying, and then I had to do the starting stint, absolutely soaked to the bone. The race start got delayed, so standing in the wetsuit and, well, what should be my dry suit, but also became a wetsuit, but wet in a different way, was soaked, and it wasn't quite pleasant standing around, so it was just kind of like moving around hoping that it'd dry. It kind of did dry, just about in time for the start of the race, so I was a little bit more comfortable for when we got the race started, which was quite nice. But yeah, being completely drenched, it's not nice to kart in. It's just not nice to race in when you're drenched. If any sim racers are watching, go and get yourself some clothes, stand in the shower for a minute, and then jump onto your sim rig and race, and let me know how comfortable that feels. And that is why it's not pleasant to kart when you're soaking wet. Also, you can't see. That doesn't help either. Thankfully, though, in Club 100, we all run slick tyres, regardless of whether it's raining or not. And while that does sound counterintuitive, it means that tyres don't have to get swapped around if it's raining. And because there's no tread on the tyres, it kicks up less water. So visibility is actually better. So I think that is the way to go for Formula 1. Their issues with too much spray, put them all on slick tyres in the rain, less water being kicked up, better visibility, no more red flags. Maybe they need to start under safety car, though. I can't imagine starting on slicks would be very good with that amount of torque going into the rear wheels. But yeah, there you go. Here we are, solving the issues of Formula 1. And the way I see it, Lando Norris made it work for a couple of laps with slick tyres on in the wet. I mean, yes, he was 15 seconds a lap slower, but then everyone would be. And that'd be a load of fun. With them all slipping and sliding around. Right, I am seeing drivers making their way back to their carts, which means I don't really have to fill time anymore. And you don't have to hear my terrible ideas about Formula 1. It's a win-win situation. But we should be getting this race going. It should be the same system as before. One formation lap and then single file race start. Right, the engines have been started. We are ready to get racing once again for our heavyweight sprint race 1 of the day. Single file for this formation lap. Seeing Steve Linley just opening up his suit momentarily, just to let in a little breeze and cool himself down before we get racing properly. Now, how fast does Anwar Beryl Smith want to go for this formation lap? He's taking this at a decent pace. a very decent pace, which I think means it's going to be not a very packed grid for the race start, and everyone's going to be split apart by a decent amount. I mean, you can see the gap from Beryl Smith, who's making his way into, well, tree line, well, the rest of the field that are now starting to bunch up. But keep your eyes on Tim Penny and Ryan Sandel. They were absolutely rapid before the red flag came out. They were the quickest drivers out on circuit. Alex Pritchard had been carving his way through the field and is now sitting in P5, having started outside of the top 10. But we are ready to go racing. Beryl Smith and Matthew Horgan lead the field as they round the final corner. And away we go. It's a good start from Beryl Smith, who's a car length ahead of Matthew Horgan. Mo Hassan under pressure from Steve Lindley heading into turn 1, but no overtakes through the opening couple of corners, which is to be expected. Steve Lindley, though, sending one up the inside now of Mo Hassan heading into the left-hander of turn 4. And he has got the move done, and that has also given an opportunity as well, I believe, for Zach Cuff to get through. Remember Zach Cuff, who started right towards the front of the field, if not on pole. He fell down the order, has now started making his way back up through the field. Although Zach Cuff has now dropped a couple of positions, is behind Sam White, and Mo Hassan is back ahead of Steve Lindley. So all manner of position changes happening in this battle for P6. And now Sam White is going up the inside of Steve Lindley. Zach Cuff trying to follow through. Contact between the front of Cuff and the back of Lindley. And Steve Lindley is now going up the inside of Sam White. Decides against it. Has to back out of the move. And Lindley doesn't look too happy. And is this going to be another incident between Lindley and Hassan, which has happened a few times this season, from what I've been told? Anwar Beryl Smith, though, has stretched out a gap over Matthew Horgan, nearly half a second ahead. And then it is Tim Penny and Ryan Sandel. And Steve Lindley has dropped down another position, and he's still pointing in front of him. And here comes Tim Williams, now going up the inside of Lindley. Lindley, though, looking for the switchback. Can't get up the inside heading into turn 1. And Tim Williams is going to gain the position up to P10. However, speaking of Tims, Tim Penny, right on the back of Matthew Horgan. There's Anwar Beryl Smith continuing to extend his lead at the front of the field, now just over half a second. Horgan has to go defensive heading down the hill into tree line corner and onto tree line straight. The best overtaking opportunity is going to be into the final corner. Can Tim Penny get through? I think Mo Hassan is being reeled in by Sam White now in this battle for P6. Penny, though, too far back to go up the inside of Horgan into the final corner. But he is close. Not close enough to go for a move into turn 1. As Steve Lindley has got back through on Tim Williams and back to the front of this little train of carts. As Clive Morfitt and Zach Cuff in front of him. Tim Penny still searching for a way through on Matt Horgan. Ooh, wide goes someone on the exit of the double right-hander and went onto that sausage curb as well. I'm sure that one is going to have been caught by the stewards in some capacity. Tim Penny, though, he's got a run on Matthew Horgan. Can't quite go up the inside. Horgan covers it off, but Horgan slightly compromised on the exit of the corner. And Tim Penny has got a good run. Is it good enough, though? He's trying to go up the inside into turn 1. Still side by side between the pair of them. Ryan Sandel looking to get the switch back. He's going to be alongside Tim Penny on the exit of 3. And Matthew Horgan holds on to the position. And Anwar Beryl Smith will gain about half a second on the squabbling trio behind him. Speaking of gaining, Alex Pritchard will be gaining as well. Has almost caught up to the back of this three-way fight for P2. As Mo Hassan has been reeled in by Sam White and Zach Cuff. And now Tim Penny's having to defend from Ryan Sandel. Sam White all over the back of Mo Hassan as they head through the opening couple of corners. Zach Cuff directly behind the pair. Tim Penny, fast lap of the race, 52.581. I don't know if he did that on the race restart. I don't think he did. And Zach Cuff is now through on Sam White and up into P7. There's Matt Horgan under immense pressure from Tim Penny, forced to go defensive into the chicanes. Horgan then defensive into the final corner. Penny going to look for the switchback, presumably. And he's got a really good switchback. Tim Penny has finally done it. He's got the drive out of the final corner. Tim Penny is through and up into second place. And now we can try to hunt down Anwar Beryl-Smith. And can Matt Horgan go along with him? But Horgan's going to fight back. Horgan's going to go up the inside of Tim Penny. He knows that if Penny gets through, he's going to pull away. But Horgan can't get his cart alongside Penny and has to settle for third for now. Ryan Sandel directly behind Horgan. And Anwar Beryl-Smith is now going to be about 2 seconds at the front of the field with 3.5 minutes to go. And I think Anwar Beryl-Smith might owe Matthew Horgan a little drink after this one because, well, Matthew Horgan has done a fantastic job to keep Tim Penny behind for so long. Now it is Ryan Sandel's turn to find a way through on Horgan and up into third position. Zach Cuff goes up the inside of Mo Hassan. Sam White into the back of Hassan. And here comes Steve Lindley going up the inside into turn one. Really nice move from Lindley up the inside of Morfett. He's on the outside though for two. And he can't make the move work. And Zach Cuff now up into P6. Can he pull away though from Mo Hassan is the question. Anwar Beryl-Smith still leading. 52.9 last time round, 53.1 for Penny. We'll see what it is this time round. $52.7 for Beryl-Smith, 52.5 for Penny. So Tim Penny still putting in that blistering lap time that he was able to do earlier today. But I think this is a case of too little, too late. He needs another 5 or so minutes if he wants to close into Beryl-Smith at the front of the field. Still though, this is a fantastic result for Matthew Horgan, who is a little bit further down in the championship. Where is Matthew Horgan? Down in P8. Ryan Sandel is currently in P6. So the pair of them will be gaining vital points over the likes of Tim Williams and Carl Badger Walker. And indeed, Alex Pritchard and Richard Allen. Richard Allen not racing today as well. And Mo Hassan has found a way back through on Zach Cuff. And look at this train of carts that has formed behind Mo Hassan in this battle for P6, I believe. Here comes Mo Hassan, closely followed by Zach Cuff, Sam White, Clive Morfett, Steve Lindley, then Daniel Taylor, Tim Williams, Philip Hoodless, Stuart Osborne, and Sam Pike. It is a 10-cart train, and a really phenomenal battle going on as Lindley's trying to go up the inside of Morfett once again, this time down into turn 4. And Lindley has made the move work, now has Sam White to get past. Meanwhile, Beryl-Smith continuing to extend his lead at the front of the field. 2 seconds now over Tim Penny, as Beryl-Smith sets his new personal best of the race of 52.598. Second quickest lap of the race so far, and just a hundredth shy of what Tim Penny was able to do. As there goes Sandel up the inside of Horgan into turn 1. Nice move from Ryan Sandel, and up into third place he goes. And there comes Mo Hassan, with Zach Cuff right behind him, and then Sam White, Steve Lindley. And this is the last lap of the race, and the last chance for any changes of position in the battle for P6. Still Mo Hassan holding on to the position ahead of Zach Cuff. And Zach Cuff did get past Mo Hassan temporarily, but Hassan was able to fight back. And Mo Hassan having to go defensive on the run down towards Tree Line Corner. Sam White able to stay ahead of Steve Lindley for now. Beryl Smith having a look behind him. Big gap. Now Anwar Beryl Smith then rounds the final corner and will take the race win for Heat 1 of the day. Ahead of Tim Penny, Ryan Sandel and Matt Horgan. Alex Pritchard will come home in P5. And in the battle for P6, it is going to be Mo Hassan, who takes 6th ahead of Zach Cuff. And then comes Sam White and Steve Lindley. And oh, that is a bit of an incident heading across the line. Fortunately, though, for Daniel Taylor, he does get across the line. And thankfully, we don't see another car flipped around. And I have a feeling that we had 2 or 3 carts side by side coming across the start-finish line. And because the start-finish line there is a kink, I think someone got squeezed onto the grass. Although I forgot to move the camera back over to the right. So, none of you guys saw that. With that, we are going to have a short break. And then when we return, we will have our second and final lightweight sprint race of the day. And after that, we'll have the final heavyweight of the day. So I'll catch you all in a short bit. All right, folks, we are pretty much ready to get underway with our second lightweight race of the day. Dante Dillon will be starting this race on pole ahead of Dave Cottrell, Fraser Brunton and Sam Lovelace on row 2. Then it's David Cunningham and Andrew Graham ahead of Miles Reitman and Graziano Malevindi. Peter Sharp and Adrian Mertens make up the top 10. Andrew Golby, Mac White on row 6. Then Javier Gorostidi Turner and Matthew Clark. Michael Reeder, Greg Smith, row 8. Jake Renshaw, Sabir El Zayat and Callum Martin, Aaron Stillwell making a top 20. Then it's Josh Wood, Nicholas Grady, Roger Davis, Simon Sharp, Matt Collier, Ethan Kerben, Philip Letixon and Taylor Laskovsky in 28th. Murtaza Hassan, Paul Mason and Ben Lambeth complete the field. So with that all said and done, let's get our timings up. And let's get ready for the final lightweight race of the day. JB did have a stern talking to all the drivers in regards to a few driving standards, particularly coming over the start-finish line and drivers not giving racing room. So, Dante Dillon, Dave Cottrell, front row of the grid. How does this race go? Sam Lovelace was very quick towards the end of race 1. Couldn't quite get past Fraser Brunton. But can Dante Dillon pull away with the race lead? As we go racing at Llandow once again. Good start from Fraser Brunton, straight up into second place. And Dave Cottrell might even lose another position on the exit of turn 2. Sam Lovelace able to hold on to the position versus David Cunningham, who tried to gain a couple of positions on the outside of 2. Sadly, wasn't able to make it work. Bit of contact between Cottrell and Miles Reitman as Reitman gets through. And now Miles Reitman going up the inside of Andrew Graham and up a position up into P5 with Andrew Graham down in P6. But Dave Cottrell has gone from second down to third. Fraser Brunton up to second. Now can he hunt down Dante Dillon? We've seen Brunton and Dante have plenty of battles over the year, not just in the Sprint 60 Championship, but in the Sprints Championship as well. And now it's Sam Lovelace right on the back of Dave Cottrell. And Lovelace up the inside of Cottrell into the final corner, up into third place. And now it is Dillon from Brunton from Lovelace as they stream across the line and into our camera shot. Reitman now on the back of Cottrell with Andy Graham right behind him. And then comes Graziano Malevindi. And Graziano had a very good start, or a very good end to his Heat 1 race. And Malevindi, is that Malevindi? I think it isn't. Never mind. I'm getting him mixed up with who is ahead of Greg Smith. Michael Reeder. I'm just trying to have a go at a move, but Dave Cottrell has fallen into the grasps now of Miles Reitman as Brunton is right onto the back of Dante Dillon. And the pair of them, I think, might be actually pulling away from Sam Lovelace, but we'll give them a couple of laps to get into a bit of a rhythm and then see how the gaps are looking. But for now, Brunton's just going to sit behind Dillon as they head into the final corner. Doesn't need to do anything just yet. 25 minutes for this race and 25 minutes for our last race. As that's Reitman going up the inside of Cottrell. Cottrell hangs it around the outside of 1 and keeps the inside for 2. But now Andy Graham is right on the back of the pair of them as they head down towards that double left-hander. Up the inside goes Reitman and up into 4th position. Graham's going to try to follow through. Gets past Cottrell now on the outside of Reitman and Cottrell. And that might compromise him. It's going to be a drag between Cottrell and Graham. And Cottrell holds on to the position as they head down towards a tree line corner. You can see Dillon and Brunton still, I want to say, working together. I don't know how much they're working together. And Sam Lovelace staying within touching distance of sorts. 52 falls for all of your top 3 last time round. And a second separating the trio of karts. And this time Andy Graham goes up the inside of Cottrell into the final corner. Makes the move work. But Cottrell is fighting back. He's got the switchback. He's got the inside into turn 1. And Cottrell has P5 ahead of Andy Graham once more. And then comes Graziano Malevindi and David Cunningham. Cunningham now ahead of Malevindi and actually has found a way through on Graham as well. So David Cunningham, who had some really, really good pace in race 1 of the day, is now up into P7 and right behind Dave Cottrell. There comes Dillon and Brunton out of second to last corner onto the back straight. And there goes Brunton up the inside of Dillon. He's not going to work with Dante for too long. Decides he wants the race lead, and Dante tucks right behind Fraser Brunton as they head into turn 1, and Sam Lovelace now within half a second and onto the back of this duo of karts fighting for the race win. Miles Reitman, 52.4 last time round, 4/10 quicker than Brunton and Dillon, but it is Sam Lovelace with the fast lap of the race, 52.2. Cunningham going defensive with Andrew Graham right behind him. There is a yellow flag out for turn 4. And one of our karts onto the grass. Has to be pushed off the grass. Fraser Brunton, now that he is ahead of Dante Dillon, can he pull ahead? Sam Lovelace is closing in, and judging from the body language, he doesn't want to wait behind. He's going to send it up the inside of Dillon into the final corner. Sam Lovelace up into second, and Dante Dillon has gone from first down to third over the space of 1 and a bit laps. Sam Lovelace still faster than Fraser Brunton despite having to overtake Dante Dillon on that particular lap. Remember, your top 3 was the exact opposite of how they are now, with the exception that Dave Cotterill was in this group of karts. So right now, Dante Dillon is going to be the one who gets the max points with a first and a third. Fraser Brunton is also on for a first and a third. Sam Lovelace, second and a fourth. So right now, Dante Dillon will be Sam Lovelace's biggest fan, hoping that he can get past Brunton, because that would mean that Dante Dillon gets more points, more combined points, than any of the other two, and will be taking the top step on the podium. And I believe it then be Sam Lovelace in second, with Brunton in third. Lovelace right on the back of Brunton as they head through the right-hander and down towards Tree Line Corner. Lovelace, 52.3 last time round, clearly the quickest driver on a circuit. But is he quick enough to get past Fraser Brunton? This trio of karts at the front has really pulled away from everyone else. Miles Reitman not putting in bad lap times, 52.5, same as Dave Cotterill behind. And David Cunningham with a 52.7. Here comes Sam Lovelace, forcing Brunton to go defensive into that double right-hander. Last time round, Dillon was the quickest of the trio. 52.3 for Dante. 52.5 for Lovelace, 52.4 for Brunton. Miles Reitman maybe slowly falling into the clutches of Dave Cotterill. So onto the back straight comes Brunton with Lovelace directly behind him. Not close enough to have a send into the final corner, though. However, if anything is to go by from the last race, Brunton's pace did drop off after about 15 minutes, and that's when Sam Lovelace really came alive, as did Dante Dillon. We'll see whether history repeats itself for race 2. As there you might be able to see Brunton and Lovelace and Dillon making their way into that top left of the camera screen. And Brunton and Lovelace this time round have definitely pulled away from Dillon in third position. New personal best for Brunton, 52.3. Still fast lap though. Goes the way of Sam Lovelace. Lovelace right onto the back of Fraser Brunton onto the back straight. This is the closest that Lovelace has been all race long. He's looking to the inside, and he is up the inside of Fraser Brunton. Brunton looks for the switchback and effectively pulls it off to hold on to the race lead. So Sam Lovelace has had his first taste of leading the race, but Fraser Brunton said, hey, that's my juice box, get away from it. Through the double left, and now into the double right. And it's still Brunton from Lovelace. And Dante Dillon just watching all of this battling unfolding in front of him. Miles Reitman is a further 3 seconds back, give or take. A bit of a lonely race right now for Reitman in fourth. Then it is Dave Cottrell and David Cunningham, followed by Malavindi. Lovelace too far back to have a send on Lovelace, and now has Dante Dillon directly behind him. There is Brunton and Lovelace and Dillon. And now that maybe Fraser Brunton has a bit of clean air, potentially he can pull away from the duo of carts behind him. However, I don't think that is going to be happening. Across the line they come. Sam Lovelace has, I think, closed in a little bit of the deficit that he had to Brunton. They're practically nose to tail heading down into tree line corner. I think Andrew Graham is being potentially closed in by Adrian Mertens. Last time round, Mertens taking 2/10 out of Graham. The gap is 7/10 of a second. We'll see what it is this time around. It's another 10th gained by Mertens. As there is Ben Lambeth now up into P11. So that's Lambeth at the front of that trio of carts exiting turn 2. Remember, Ben Lambeth started this race at the back of the field. So Ben Lambeth has a phenomenal amount of work to do. But I'm sure for Lambeth, this is going to be a very fun race, racing from the back of the field. And he has already made his way up into P11, now 1.5 seconds behind Peter Sharp. There's Lovelace now definitely onto the back of Brunton once more. There is Ben Lambeth going across your screen with the black suit and the green flashings, I think they call it, fleshings. Ben Lambeth trying to close in onto Peter Sharp. Last time round, Ben Lambeth took 9/10 out of Peter Sharp. And actually, Ben Lambeth is matching the pace of the leaders pretty much. It's Lovelace still right on the back of Brunton heading into turn 1. Dante Dillon a couple of cart lengths back. And Miles Reitman a further 3 seconds behind. Miles Reitman has been doing a good job staying consistently 3 seconds behind this leading trio of carts, as that is a move for the lead. Sam Lovelace sends one up the inside of Fraser Brunton into turn 4. And this time he has held on to the race lead as well. So Sam Lovelace, for the first time today, is leading a Sprint 60 race. And I think it might actually be the first ever time he leads a Sprint 60 race as well. Onto the back straight they come. Fraser Brunton applying as much pressure as he can onto Lovelace. Sam Lovelace, best result this season, P4 and a P5, as Dante Dillon is now going up the inside of Brunton. Dante Dillon has said, no, Fraser, I'm going up your inside. Brunton, though, hangs it around the outside as they come over the start-finish straight. And Fraser Brunton holds on to second place. Now the question is, can Sam Lovelace pull away from Brunton and Dillon? Sam Lovelace is already a little bit ahead of Brunton. A couple of kart lengths up. As they head on to Tree Line Straight, and Brunton is right onto the back of Lovelace once more. Ben Lambeth still closing in onto Adrian Mertens. 2.3 seconds back. As Fraser Brunton right onto the back of Sam Lovelace, heading into the final corner. Doesn't send it. And so it will be Sam Lovelace holding on to the race lead as they head in through turns 1 and 2. With Dante Dillon directly behind us, they now make their way towards turn 3. Sorry, turn 4, I should say. I'm still trying to think who's my driver of the day. Dave Cottrell, David Cunningham have had phenomenal drives, but Sam Lovelace on for his first ever SP60 win, his first ever podium. It's almost certain right now, unless Miles Reitman can really start upping the pace. Miles Reitman is still about 3 seconds behind Dillon, which has been the gap between third and fourth for the majority of this race. 9 minutes remaining. As it is still Lovelace leading from Brunton. Is Brunton going to do the Lovelace move into turn 4? No, he won't. Lovelace, though, a little bit wide. And Lovelace is going to have to defend into the double right-hander. And that is just bunching up Brunton and Dillon right behind him. I do wonder if Miles Reitman can close in onto this train of karts. It does look like he's visibly closer this time around. The more these three battle, the more of a chance there is for Reitman to close in. Into the hairpin they go. And across the line to start yet another lap. Last time round, Miles Reitman gaining 3/10 on the leading trio. So Miles Reitman now 2.6 seconds behind. A fantastic race between the leading three. How is Ben Lambeth getting along? He's now 1.1 seconds behind Adrian Mertens, consistently taking a couple of tenths a lap. And he's pretty much on the back of this train that goes up to David Cunningham in P6. Brunton on the back of Lovelace once again. And the leading two have pulled a couple of tenths clear of Dante Dillon. As Miles Reitman takes another 10th out of Dillon. Brunton's too far back to have a go on to Sam Lovelace through turn 4. Ben Lambeth taking another 3/10 out of Adrian Mertens as he closes in for P8. Sorry, for P9. 6 minutes remaining in the race. Not long left then for Ben Lambeth. He's had a really phenomenal drive. Fraser Brunton gets very close to the back of Lovelace into the final corner. And now they're definitely starting to pull away from Dante Dillon. Lovelace and Brunton, 52.60, 52.59. Dillon, 52.80. Miles Reitman, 52.78. If you're a Miles Reitman fan in the chat, you really want these leading three to start battling as hard as possible. But right now, Fraser Brunton is just sitting behind Sam Lovelace. I think he knows that if he works with Sam, they can maybe pull away a few cart lengths from Dante Dillon, and then he has a little bit more freedom to really squabble with Sam without running the risk of Dante Dillon trying to nosy one up his inside as he searches for a switchback or something similar. And this is going to be tantalizing for Dante Dillon because he's not losing a lot. It's half a tenth of that, maybe less than that. But slowly but surely, he is falling back from the two in front. Although last time round, he gains half a tenth on Lovelace and Brunton. Again, Miles Reitman consistently putting in those 52.7s. And Ben Lambeth has found a way through on Adrian Mertens, and he's done that into turn one. So Ben Lambeth up a position now. And now he can try to hunt down Andrew Graham. And then it's Graziano Malavindi and David Cunningham up ahead. And there's only about a second between the four of them. Again, Brunton is always so close to the back of Sam Lovelace on that back straight, but he doesn't go for a move. And I wonder if he knows that he can go for a move, but he doesn't want to let Sam Lovelace know that he can go for that overtake. And is just biding his time, waiting for the perfect opportunity. Maybe waiting for last lap. Nah, last lap might be too obvious. Maybe you go for the penultimate lap of the race, have that send on Lovelace there, and then try to put him out of sorts on corner exit, and then just pull the gap for that remainder of the final lap of the race. 4 and a bit minutes remaining. Ben Lambeth taking another 2 tenths out of Andy Graham, now 8 tenths behind, as they are making their way on towards Treeline corner, and then Treeline straight. Dante Dillon is on to the back of Fraser Brunton once more. Your top three have been separated by, well, less than a second for pretty much the entire race. And Sam Lovelace, the first time he tried to overtake Fraser Brunton, it didn't work. The second time, it did work, and Brunton is starting to look feisty. He's starting to search for opportunities, and Sam Lovelace might start to feel that pressure rising just a little bit more. 52.8 for all of the top three. Miles Reitman, ever consistent. Another 52.7. There you can see Ben Lambeth closing in onto Andy Graham. Andy Graham in that red helmet, black overalls. They head down towards turn 4. And I have a feeling Lambeth might be going for a move very soon. There is a quartet of carts with Lambeth at the rear. Brunton is all over the rear end of Sam Lovelace, heading through the complex. And onto the back straight they come. Lovelace, a little look over his shoulder. This is the closest that Brunton has been all race long. And he's going to go up the inside. Lovelace will not defend. Lovelace is going to try to hang it around the outside of the final corner. And Lovelace gets a phenomenal drive. He's ahead of Brunton into turn 1. And Fraser Brunton has had his first overtaking attempt on Sam Lovelace since Lovelace overtook him 10-15 laps ago. And there is Ben Lambeth. He's got past Graham, and he's got past Malavindi. So Ben Lambeth is up into P7. Fantastic stuff from Ben Lambeth. Fraser Brunton's had a send. He's done it into tree-lined corner. I did not see that one coming, but Fraser Brunton has taken the lead. Sam Lovelace up the inside into the complex. They're side-by-side all the way through. And it is Sam Lovelace who retakes the lead, but Dante Dillon gets the best one of the three. He's trying to go up the inside of Brunton. Brunton, though, pushing Sam Lovelace along. And now Brunton's got up the inside of Lovelace into the final corner again. Sam Lovelace hangs it around the outside. But has he got the drive? They're neck and neck heading into turn 1. But Fraser Brunton has done it and takes the race lead. And we're heading on to possibly the penultimate lap of the race. Fraser Brunton still leading then from Sam Lovelace and Dante Dillon. Brunton took the lead early on. He lost the lead temporarily to Sam Lovelace for about 10 minutes, but he was patient, he waited, and now he's looking to check out at the front of the field. Ben Lambeth desperately trying to close in on to David Cunningham. He took a tenth out of Cunningham last time around. And our leading three are about to close into some back markers. Miles Reitman is also closing on to the leading trio, but he needs them to battle that little bit harder. Now to the final corner they come. Brunton, Lovelace, Dillon, Reitman. There is Dave Cottrell, and there comes David Cunningham. Ben Lambeth is really closing in. Lambeth a 52.4 last time around. 6/10 out of David Cunningham. The back marker gets well out of the way of the leading three, and indeed the leading four as Miles Reitman comes through. Miles Reitman is only a second behind Dante Dillon last time they came across the line. Next time is going to be the last lap, the last opportunity for Sam Lovelace to fight for this race win. They have been able to gap Dante Dillon by a few tenths. It's not much, but compared to how close they have been for the majority of this race, it is a gap. Last lap board is out, and Fraser Brunton is the one who leads the field through turns 1 and 2. Sam Lovelace needs the perfect lap to close in onto Fraser Brunton, but can he pull it off? Ben Lambeth is also closing in on to David Cunningham. He's right onto the back of Cunningham. You can see them heading down towards turn 4, that long left-hander that then pulls back towards our camera and into the double right. But Fraser Brunton, I think he's actually gapping Sam Lovelace. He's done exactly what he's needed to do. He's done the overtake at the corner where Sam Lovelace least expected it, and he made the move work. Onto the back straight then. Fraser Brunton leads from Sam Lovelace. He didn't start this race at the front, but he sure as well will finish and take the race win ahead of Sam Lovelace, who takes a mighty second ahead of Dante Dillon. Miles Reitman with a fantastic P4. Then comes Cottrell, and in the end, Cunningham will pip Lambeth to the line. I think Ben Lambeth just needed 1 or 2 more laps. Malavindi will take 8th ahead of Graham, Mertens and Clark. Peter Sharp in 12th ahead of Stevie Turner. Then Josh Wood, Andrew Golby, Mac White, Michael Reeder, Jake Renshaw, Philippe Letixon and Sabir Al-Zayat will be completing your top 20. Roger Davis gets past Matt Collier on the final lap of the race for 21st. Murtaza Hassan in 23rd ahead of Callum Martin. Then it is Simon Sharp, Nicholas Grady, Ethan Coburn, Aaron Stillwell, Taylor Laskovsky, Paul Mason and Greg Smith. I think Greg Smith had some issues come the end of this race. Well, that was a rather exhilarating lightweight sprint race 2. And with that, we are going to do another one of those little breaks. And then we will be returning with our final race of the day, the heavyweight sprint 2. Welcome back, everyone, to Llandow for the final race of the day. Our heavyweight sprint number 2. I say final race of the day. There's also the endurance afterwards, but I'm not covering that. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is the final race of the day, and no other races exist in the world. Let's have a look at our grid order for heavyweight race 2. And Beryl Smith will be starting on pole with Ryan Sandel alongside. Matt Horgan and Zach Cuff will be on row 2, with Tim Williams and Philip Hoodless make up row 6, with Stuart Osborne and Garrett O'Connor on row 7. Steve Lindley and Sam Pike are on row 8, ahead of Matt Jones and Luke Somerville. Pete Gillett lines up alongside former front row starter Vince Cogswell, and that completes your top 20 as Mark Ford, Alex Brandom make up row 11, ahead of Christopher Heath and Dimitri Zeldin, Lee Bennett, Jamie Garside, Alex Brooks, James Fremont, Joshua Morris, Daniel White, Craig Matthews-Clark, and Stuart Kirk complete the field. Pete Gillett then is your effective pole sitter for the super heavyweights, ahead of Mark Ford and Christopher Heath. And it seems that we are pretty much ready to get underway then with this final heavyweight race of the day. As I hear engines starting, or I should say engine notes rising. Engine starting, I think, also works as well. So our drivers will make their way through the final couple of corners to start their race. Beryl Smith and Sandel on the front row. Ryan Sandel showed a lot of pace come the end of the last race, as did Tim Penny, but Tim Penny is starting this race down in P6 behind Zach Cuff and Alex Pritchard. So let's see how this race goes. And Beryl Smith winning that first race of the day, taking some valuable points in the absence of Dickie Allen in the championship. Beryl Smith will have the inside in for turn 1, and that'll lead to the outside for turn 2, but he'll be hoping he'll be well clear of Ryan Sandel by the time they get into the second corner. Here they come then, rounding the final corner. Beryl Smith and Sandel will lead the field. It's a very good start from the pole side, and Matthew Horgan is already ahead of Ryan Sandel as they head into turn 3. Alex Pritchard going round the outside of Ryan Sandel as well. So Pritchard gains a position. Ryan Sandel drops from 2nd down to 4th and is now coming under pressure from Zach Cuff as they head down in towards turn 4. Ryan Sandel in the blue suit, yellow helmet, and Zach Cuff in the black suit and orange helmet, directly ahead of Mo Hassan and Tim Penny. So Mo Hassan gaining a position on the opening lap, and Tim Penny, though, trying to fight this one back. Needs to be careful, does Tim Penny, because I think he has Sam White directly behind him. No, never mind. That's actually Zach Cuff, who has dropped 3 positions. So he has dropped behind Hassan and Penny as well. Ryan Sandel now coming under pressure from Mo Hassan as they head on to the back straight. Across the line goes Beryl Smith with a big lead to Alex Pritchard, who is up into 2nd place. Alex Pritchard qualifying outside of the top 10 for race 1. He clambered his way up into the top 5 by the end of that opening race and is now going to be trying to hunt down Beryl Smith for the race win, and we'll see whether he can drag Matt Horgan along with him, because at the moment Ryan Sandel has just been able to find a way through past Mo Hassan, but it goes a little bit wide to Sandel, and that allows Hassan back up the inside through the double right-hander. So Mo Hassan back up into 4th position. And now it's Ryan Sandel right behind Tim Penny. And Zach Cuff goes past Sandel as well. So Sandel goes from P4 down to P7 and is on the inside. I think Sandel has a car issue. Ryan Sandel has lost a whole bunch of places heading into the final corner. That kart has some issues, and there is nothing that Ryan Sandel can do. You can see him, and he has just dropped through the field. So I don't know. Maybe sometimes if you hit a curb badly, it just sends the revs weird into some weird kind of trajectory, and then the kart just loses pace. And then a lap later, it acts as if nothing had ever happened. But Ryan Sandel has dropped all the way down to about P12. But Anwar Beryl-Smith is pulling away from Alex Pritchard. This is the kind of drive that we expect from the SP60 Heavyweight Championship leader. Mo Hassan is having a very good drive. He's actually closing into Matt Horgan for third position. As that cuff goes up the inside of Tim Penny. I think Sam White tried to follow through. Tim Penny, though, is going to get the switch back. 18 versus 14. Penny on the inside, cuff on the outside. And Tim Penny takes the position. As that is Mo Hassan going up the inside of Matthew Horgan down into turn 4. So Mo Hassan up into third position. He is having a phenomenal drive in Heat 2. Has really picked up the pace since race 1. And it's now up into the podium positions, and we'll see whether he can hunt down Alex Pritchard for second place. Here goes Beryl-Smith over the start-finish line. And sadly for Ryan Sandel, he is coming into the pits. He has had enough of his kart, and that is going to be race over for Ryan Sandel, who started on the front row of the grid. And it seems that he's had a bit of misfortune with something on that kart, and sadly that is how motor racing goes on some days. Mo Hassan has pulled from Matt Horgan. Mo Hassan, 53.5 last time round. He's taken 2/10 out of Alex Pritchard. Tim Penny, though, 53.1. Only person quicker than Penny right now is Beryl-Smith, who put in a 53.0 and might even be able to squeeze his way into the 52s. Never mind, he has already done it a couple of laps ago, 52.9. As Nicky Richardson waits for Beryl-Smith and decides, you know what, I'll sit behind Beryl-Smith to test one of the fleet. 52.8 then for Anwar Beryl-Smith, 4.6 seconds clear of Alex Pritchard, who has been closed in by 6/10 by Mo Hassan. So Mo Hassan really reeling in Alex Pritchard. Tim Penny is past Matthew Horgan as well. But Anwar Beryl-Smith is in an absolute league of his own right now. He is loving life at the front of the field and putting in some exquisitely quick lap times. Pritchard has a little look over his shoulder. We'll see Hassan closing in. You might also notice that Tim Penny is closing in on the pair of them. And as they come over the line, Pritchard 54.1, 53.5 for Hassan. Tim Penny 53.0, matching the pace of Beryl-Smith at the front of the field. We knew that Tim Penny had the pace in Heat 1. I'm still not quite sure why he was starting on row 3. I thought he finished the race a little bit higher up the order, but never mind. Now Mo Hassan is now right on the back of Alex Pritchard as they head towards Treeline Corner. And Mo Hassan is searching now for a way through on Alex Pritchard, trying to just slowly apply the pressure. And the more these two battle, the quicker Penny's going to close in. It's a good run for Mo Hassan. Pritchard covers them off, though, going into turn 1. It's just a little bit further behind Matthew Horgan, coming under pressure from Zach Cuff. He's got Daniel Taylor, Tim Williams, Sam White, Sam Pike right behind him. And there goes Cuff, trying to go up the inside of Horgan into turn 4. But Horgan able to hold on to the position. As Tim Penny is right on the back of Mo Hassan last time round. Tim Penny 53.4, 53.3 for Mo Hassan, 53.7 for Alex Pritchard. So Alex Pritchard, the pace is not quite there for him in this race compared to the first race of the day. And Zach Cuff has been able to find a way through on Matthew Horgan. Up into P5 he goes. The Mo Hassan has a look behind him, sees Tim Penny. Gives a thumbs up. I'm not sure if that's to say, yeah, let's work together, or if that's just to say, good job getting up to P4. Mo Hassan, though, going up the inside of Alex Pritchard. Pritchard left the door open into turn 2, and Mo Hassan took that as an invitation to go up the inside. Pritchard, though, holds on to the position. And these three squabbling, that's going to allow Zach Cuff to slowly close in. Mo Hassan has to go defensive into the double right hand. Otherwise, Tim Penny would very quickly be sending his kart up Hassan's inside. There they go then on tree line straight. And into the little complex. Still Pritchard from Hassan from Penny. As they make their way through the chicane, this time Alex Pritchard does not leave the door open for Hassan. Mo Hassan right on the back of Alex Pritchard, heading down the hill towards tree line corner. I say hill, it's not much of a hill, but there is a slight gradient decline. I think we have about 16 minutes remaining of this race. Mo Hassan is closer than he has ever been to the back of Alex Pritchard. And he's going to go up the inside of Pritchard into the final corner. So Mo Hassan up into second place. Alex Pritchard, though, gets the switchback. Is it enough? Hassan has to leave him space. They're side by side through turn one. Contact between the pair of them as Alex Pritchard retakes second place from Mo Hassan. Fantastic racing then between the pair of them. As there they go through the double left-hander. Anwar Beryl Smith is long gone. He's already made his way back into England. 8 seconds clear of the drivers behind. Pritchard has a little nosy over his shoulder to see which way Hassan wants to go as they head down into tree line corner. But it is still Pritchard ahead of Hassan. Hassan, though, getting a good run. And Hassan has gone up the inside of Alex Pritchard into the complex. Fantastic move then from Mo Hassan as he takes second place away from Alex Pritchard. And now Pritchard has to worry about Tim Penny. But he's going up the inside of Mo Hassan. Penny pushing Pritchard along. And Mo Hassan will go from third to second and down to fourth place. Hassan, though, on the outside of the final corner, gets a fantastic drive. And is back ahead of Tim Penny once more. But have a look who's behind them. Zach Cuff has closed into this battle for P3. And he's dragging along pretty much the entire heavyweight grid. Pritchard with the kart length now over Mo Hassan, heading into the double right-hander. Zach Cuff last time round, 53.4. Was 54s by the trio in front. As they head through the complex once more, Alex Pritchard putting on a fantastic defensive drive. As here comes Anwar Beryl Smith to start yet another lap. Bit of contact between Hassan and Pritchard on the exit of the final corner. Mo Hassan desperately searches for a way through. There's no question that Mo Hassan and Tim Penny are definitely quicker than Pritchard, but they just cannot find a way through. Can't send it on the inside into turn 4 either, can Mo Hassan. And I think this is the point where Tim Penny might start to get a bit impatient and might go for the move himself. They're definitely not going to catch up to Beryl Smith at this point. So it's all about the battle for second. Nose to tail as they make their way through the complex. Tim Penny trying to get alongside Mo Hassan. Pritchard forced to go defensive. Penny now looking to the outside of Mo Hassan. And they're almost 3 abreast as they come across the starting line. Alex Pritchard holds on to second from Mo Hassan and Tim Penny. Once again, Tim Williams has caught up to the back of Zach Cuff and has dragged Daniel Taylor, Matt Horgan along with him. Remember, Matt Horgan was running in third or second place at one point in this race. I think he was leading the first race of the day for a couple of laps before Anwar Beryl Smith got past and checked out at the front of the field. Here comes Pritchard then on the exit of the complex. as Anwar Beryl Smith starts a new lap. 12 minutes remaining. Still a lot of battling to go. Sam White goes up the inside of Matthew Horgan. Sorry, Sam Pike up the inside of Matthew Horgan. And there is Pritchard ahead of Hassan on the exit of the double right-hander. The pace has really dropped off for those three as they battle, lapping in the high 53s, low 54s. Alex Pritchard couldn't care less. As long as he holds on to second, that's all that matters. Stationary yellow flag out in turn 1. Mo Hassan still can't find a way through Pritchard into the final corner. And it is yellow flags around the entire field with those stationary yellows. I'm not quite sure what the issue is. Oh, the tyre barriers have been completely and utterly whacked on the approach into the final corner. How that's happened, I don't quite know. But that is going to neutralise the racing for maybe a couple of minutes. And then we'll be having, a 9-minute sprint to the end of this race. So racing neutralised. Anwar Beryl Smith, 11.5 second clear of Alex Pritchard. We'll see whether that gap drops or increases over the duration of this full course yellow. I don't think it'll go much either way. And Anwar Beryl Smith is going to make sure that the field behind cannot catch up and make his heroic effort in the first 15 minutes go to waste. So the pace has dropped by about 7 seconds a lap. We're lapping in the 1 minutes currently. 1 minute 0.4 for Beryl Smith, 1 minute 0.4 for Alex Pritchard. Kind of cool that both of the top two have done the identical lap time despite being quite far away from each other and under full course yellow. They've both slowed down by the same amount roughly. Well, technically Beryl Smith has slowed down a bit more because he was lapping quicker prior to the yellow flag. I think if I was Clive Morfitt right now, I'd be getting very agitated that Stuart Osborne wasn't closing in quicker onto the back of Philip Hoodless. Because there's a chance of some big points that is being lost if they don't close in. Yellow flags are gone. We are racing once again. Pritchard straight away has to go defensive. Mo Hassan right on his rear end as they head through turns 1 and 2 as the entire field fly past our commentary box. And there is Pritchard making his way through turn 4. Mo Hassan though, he's got the run. Mo Hassan, I think he's done it. He's up the inside of Alex Pritchard on the exit of the double right-hander and is past that cuff going up the inside of Tim Penny through tree line corner. And now they are neck and neck on the run towards the complex. Penny on the outside and gives himself the inside for the left-hander, and he holds on to the position. Mo Hassan covers off Pritchard heading into the final corner, but Hassan might be going a little bit wide. Can Pritchard get alongside? Almost, but Hassan gets a better drive. Tim Penny still ahead of a Cuff as Pike goes up the inside of White. Matt Horgan drops another position in the process, and Tim William is right on the back of Zach Cuff. But Mo Hassan has now started to stretch a gap to Alex Pritchard, who is in turn stretching a little gap to Tim Penny, as Tim Penny just tries to get himself back into a rhythm and close in onto Alex Pritchard. We have 6 minutes remaining in the race. Through the complex. And Tim Penny is closing in onto the pair of them. Mo Hassan having a little look over his shoulder just to see how close Pritchard is. Hassan goes defensive. Pritchard will look to get the better exit out of the final corner. It's a good exit, but not enough to pull alongside Mo Hassan, who is going a little bit defensive into turn 1. And now Tim Penny has closed in. And this trio of and Sam Pike. There is Hassan, Pritchard and Penny on the exit of the double right-hander. They stay in that order onto tree line straight. Cuff having to go defensive. Tim Williams looking to the outside on the run towards into the position. But it's not Tim Williams he has to worry about. It's actually going to be Daniel Taylor, who gets past Tim Williams and is now right on the rear end of Zach Cuff. Onto the back straight comes Hassan, Pritchard and Penny. Penny's got a very good run. He's managed to get his front wheel alongside the back of Pritchard. Late on the brakes from Tim Penny and up into third place goes the number 18 kart. And now he's hunting down Mo Hassan for second. We know that before we had the full course yellow, Tim Penny was the quickest driver on circuit, barring Anwar Beryl Smith. But he was pretty much matching the pace of Beryl Smith and a good few tenths quicker than anyone else out on track. And now Tim Penny can try to hunt down Mo Hassan for second place. Mo Hassan on for, I believe, his best result of the season. Although I will just double check that. Never mind, this is actually Mo Hassan's first race in the SP60 Championship. Also, I've just had a look over to the YouTube chat. Welcome to Motorsport Magpie and Sahib. How you guys doing? Tim Penny, though, fighting with Mo Hassan side by side through turn 1. Mo Hassan, though, holds on to second place for now. And it is all about this fight for second. Anwar Beryl Smith is long gone. There is no hope of catching him unless he has a kart failure or something. Mo Hassan holds on to second. Tim Penny, we know, is probably the quickest of these 3 drivers. But is he quick enough? I know we've got some fans of Vince Cogswell in the chat. Currently in P14, and actually has just got past Clive Morfitt for 13th position. And Stuart Osborne not too far up the road. Tim Williams under pressure from Matt Horgan as the 2 Warwick drivers are fighting, Sam Pike and Sam White. And they're saying let's work together, but I don't see much working together. Sam White now ahead of Sam Pike as they try to close back in onto Matthew Horgan. At the front, Anwar Beryl Smith still lapping in those high 52s. And it is high 53s for Hassan, Penny and Pritchard as they continue to duke it out with one another. Hassan and Penny are able to navigate their way through on one of the back markers. Alex Pritchard just a couple of kart lengths behind. As we are about to head on to the penultimate lap of the race as Anwar Beryl Smith crosses the line. Mo Hassan goes defensive. Tim Penny looking for the switchback, looking to get the better drive. And it is a fantastic drive for Tim Penny. Hassan goes defensive and Tim Penny capitalizes up into second place. Goes the number 18 car, Mo Hassan demoted down to third. And surely Tim Penny just drives away now in second place. Maybe Alex Pritchard can have a go at Mo Hassan as well. Tim Penny has stretched out a couple of kart lengths to Mo Hassan. Here we go, last lap of the race. Tim Penny is well and truly in second ahead of Mo Hassan and Alex Pritchard. But that's a move then by Daniel Taylor trying to go up the inside of Zach Cuff. Cuff then has the inside for turn 2. Daniel Taylor will just have to look for a potential switchback. Tim Williams coming under pressure from Matthew Horgan as they head into turn 4. Alex Pritchard all over the back of Mo Hassan as they exit the double right-hander. Cuff and Taylor side by side heading into the complex. Williams is going to follow Cuff through and Daniel Taylor ends up losing a position. Anwar Beryl Smith crosses the line to take the checkered flag. Fantastic drive from him. Mo Hassan goes defensive into the final corner. It's going to be a drag to the line between himself and Alex Pritchard. But Alex Pritchard will not be able to pip Mo Hassan, and Mo Hassan will take a fantastic third place. Tim Penny second after having to wait a very long time to find an opportunity past Mo Hassan. In the end, P5 will go the way of Zach Cuff, Tim Williams in P6. Then Daniel Taylor, Matt Horgan, Sam White, Sam Pike, Steve Lindley in P11 ahead of Stuart Osborne, Vince Cogswell, Matt Jones, Garrett O'Connor. And then Clive Morfitt. Jamie Garside will take the win in the super heavyweight class ahead of Alex Brooks, Alex Brandom and Luke Somerville. Pete Gillett is second in the super heavies ahead of Christopher Heath, who is third in the super heavies. Then comes Lee Bennett, Joshua Morris, the following 4 all super heavyweight drivers. Dimitri Zeldin, James Fremont, Mark Ford, Daniel White. And then back to the heavies of Craig Matthews-Clark, Philip Hoodless, and sadly Ryan Sandel, who had that car issue earlier on. But with that, that concludes all of our racing action today for the Club 100 Sprint 60 races. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and hopefully I get to do a few more of these in the future, providing I can sort out some of the internet bandwidth issues we have had. But I hope you all have a lovely day, and for those of you racing in the